hell am I doing? So when are we doing our in-person show? When's that going to happen?
I have no idea.
Come on, you know you want to come visit the lovely, lovely Pittsburgh, sir.
It's so cold in the Berg.
It's so cold in the D.
Say hello to the world, dog. Oh,
So next weekend is our camping trip. I guess next weekend we can either do the show early, late, or just put it off a week.
somebody's really delayed. Wow.
It's very delayed. What was up with that?
It's like... Oh God. Who's not using headphones?
Actually, it might be me.
Aha.
Because I am checking out the
The streaming,
streaming.
the embedded thing. Oh, I saw your message, by the way. I haven't looked at it yet.
I will definitely spend the expense to come visit you guys in person if we put up different. We're in the same room, but we put up different backgrounds for each of us to make it look like we're typing in from different locations.
Yes, I like that
At
idea.
some point we can like switch places.
Yes.
Hello world, this is Zool. There is no dog, only Zool. He's the greatest dog in the world. Not even arguable at this point. It's official. Best dog ever. I love that this is going to be repeating itself forever in the recorded version of this show. On the video. Focus.
Wow.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we're losing John. John, don't leave us. Don't leave us, John.
Video, is it better if I do it that way?
Oh, wow, yes, okay. I can actually hear
okay.
you now.
What's your ETA, baby?
Mine is 95 seconds.
95 seconds. That's a very precise estimate.
That's pretty precise. Although it's a multiple of 5, if I really wanted to sound precise, I'd say something like 93. It doesn't sound like we're rounding to multiples of 5.
Social justice warriors. Dun 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 dun.
Dun dun dun. Hashtag what the fuck.
Hashtag what the fuck. Is that enough examples? Do you have any others you want to add on there?
I don't know.
We could just wing it, some of it. Like there's a few there. So.
Is my microphone backwards?
I can't tell. If it is, I can't tell. It sounds good.
How does it sound now? Echoey. Okay, that's bad. It was the right way before.
It was better before.
Okay, one of these days I'll remember how this microphone gets placed, but that day is not today. For those of us watching live, we will soon be releasing several episodes. Scientology parts 1 and 2 have been finished, as well as John and we did the little mini episode on Stevia and Splenda, and that is also done.
Yes.
We're only 12 episodes behind now after those 3.
Brandy says she wants to sit down and explore the audio editing, so who knows, maybe she'll be like, this is the best ever. Since I fucking hate it.
Oh, it's a learned skill, John.
I'm aware, there are some things I swear I'm just born not to like, and that is one of them. It's mostly just because I hate listening to myself talk. Insert jokes here.
It's okay. You don't really know how anyway.
What, how to talk?
Yeah, you don't English.
Your mom doesn't.
It's okay, John.
Your mom doesn't speaky words goodly. Damn it.
There.
We need to learn you good English.
Me talk pretty one day.
Get you an edge-maction.
Stop making fun of my mom's problem with speaking English.
Come on, Brandy.
It's been more than 95 seconds.
It has. Should call her on that. And I've seen so many snakes on the trail
Plane?
that we go riding on. Yes.
I'm tired of these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane.
These Monday to Friday snakes, or was it mother flipping snakes on this Monday to Friday plane?
Mother and father snakes on this Monday to Friday plane.
Oh, is that what it is? Mother, father? Oh.
Mother and father snakes on this Monday to Friday plane. This is a tasty hamburger.
Have any of you guys read the Expanse? Any of the Expanse series, like Leviathan Wakes?
I have never
Any of
heard
that.
of it.
Sci-Fi has picked up the rights to make a series out of that. I'm excited and terrified at the same time because they have a terrible track record. Once in a while, they do really good ones, but I'm scared of how this will turn out.
I don't know anything about it, so.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. So I'm reading this intro then?
Yes. So you'll read the intro, and then after I do my part, then I'll lead in with the Blue Blazes as a social justice warrior.
With the Blue Blazes?
The Blue Blazes.
Are we in the 1930s here, John?
Bring, 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 bring. 1932 called. They'd like their sayings back, please. We're not doing phrasing? Seriously?
What was it I saw the other day? It was a joke about Iron Man in Marvel Comics. Apparently, Marvel Comics has been around long enough that solid dick once meant good advice.
Oh, wow.
Serious talk. And
There
was something like Iron Man is going to get solid dick from somebody. Or maybe it's time for the Iron Man to get some good solid dick from somebody, and he said maybe it is. That was actually in a comic book.
I was not aware of this.
Nothing beats the new stamps in Finland, the super gay stamps that are, I think it's Finland. They're wild. You have to look it up. I thought it was a Poe of some sort. Oh, it was crazy.
Captain America needs some solid dick from Iron Man. That's what it says.
I'd probably read comics if that was going on, maybe.
So there is that.
Crazy.
You guys would give me solid dick if I needed it, right?
BuzzFeed has 43 out-of-context comic panels that prove all superheroes have dirty minds. And there's the Joker talking about, so they'll laugh at my boner, will they? I'll show them. I'll show them how many boners the Joker can make. Back when that made a mistake.
How many boners can the Joker make?
Wait till they get a load of me.
Yeah. Alright, you guys ready to roll?
I don't know, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine.
I can hear clearly now, the show is on.
Nice.
Yeah, I gotta get my document here.
Were you recording when you sang that just now?
This video is recorded on YouTube.
Well, I meant your own track of it, because
No.
I would love to have that as an outtake or something.
I can hear
Outro,
clearly
intro.
now, the show is on. There we go. That's recorded.
It's our blooper reel. Our lost episodes that are never lost.
Alright, I'm recording. Is everybody recording?
I'm recording.
I'm recording.
Everybody ready? Because here we go. Okay.
Yeah, I thought this whole show was a blooper roll.
Fuck.
Basically.
Should
So on the count of three, we're gonna say cancel Colbert. 1, 2, 3. Cancel
Cancel
Colbert.
Colbert.
Cancel Colbert.
Big Brandy is way behind. Wow. Okay.
Just happening with Colbert, I haven't been watching it.
We'll get to that.
Welcome to the Irreverent Skeptics podcast. Today is June 28th-ish. Why does it say ish, John? Joining us today are Brandy Madison.
Well, somebody should be the fucking watching and keeping an eye on him. It's the second time. He doesn't give a fuck about what's going on in front of the camera, all right? I'm trying to do a fucking scene here, and I'm going to be, why the fuck is John walking in here? What's going on? What's he doing here? Do you understand my mind is not in the scene if you're doing that?
What the?
Sorry.
Okay, Mike Bowler.
Hello.
Dumbass.
I wish I had $1 for every dollar I don't have.
What? Erno is not here, unfortunately. He is a very busy working man. And the man, the myth, the Michael McElroy. And I'm okay, whatever that is. It's not right in the notes. I don't know what that is.
It's my line. It's my line.
I've never seen that. Whatever, John. It's not highlighted with your name.
Right.
Fucking thing sucks. You know what? You know what? We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
I'm John Homby.
Yes, you are, John.
That was even better. So, today we're talking about social justice warriors and pissy fucks.
Oh, did I ever spike out my microphone levels?
How about that? Before we get started with talking about social justice warriors, I was going to go on a rant today about I don't know, about the big disparity in thinking between we need to not spend a lot of money in this country and people need to take care of themselves and let's pump a bunch of money into destroying countries around the world and a bunch of other shit like that. And then I decided, you know what? Yeah, I was just like, I was going to go on a big rant about that, and I just thought, you know what? I'm going to sum it up by quoting Seth MacFarlane via the great Peter Griffin and just say, you know what really grinds my gears? You, America. Fuck you. So, hey, Mike, I got a question for you. What the blue blazes is a social justice warrior?
What the blue blazes? Yeah, John, the 1930s, they want their lingo back. So from UrbanDictionary.com, that bastion of great etymological plentitude, social justice warrior, or social justice warrior, or SJW for short, is a pejorative term for an individual who repeatedly and vehemently engages in arguments on social justice on the internet, often in a shallow or not well thought out way, for the purpose of raising their own personal reputation. A social justice warrior, or SJW, does not necessarily strongly believe all that they say or even care about the groups they're fighting on behalf of. They typically repeat points from whoever is the most popular blogger or commenter of the moment, hoping they will get social justice points and become popular in return. They are very sure to adopt stances that are correct in their social circle. Their favorite activity of all is to dogpile, and their favorite websites to frequent are LiveJournal and Tumblr. They do not have relevant favorite real-world places because SJWs are primarily civil rights activists only online.
Or slacktivists.
Is that related to white knighting?
Yes.
Sometimes, very much so, yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
I've been accused of white knighting before.
Do you have
How long does it take you? How long does it take you to polish your armor?
Are you good with a broadsword, or are you more of an axe guy?
Are you a paladin? By chance?
I polish my armor all the time. It's got to keep that armor polished.
That spearhead of his is sharp and ready to go at him.
And moisturized, I understand.
Damp and dewy.
Let's talk about some examples of SJWing, or social justice warrioring.
Yes, let's.
Okay, so I'm not even going to go very deep into what it was, but the Trayvon Martin case from a couple years back. How's it best to?
I'm going to get very upset on the internet about how the laws suck, and then not do anything to actually try to get laws repealed or changed to be things the way that I want them to be. That sums up most of the discussion of Trayvon.
Well, what I was going to say about that was, like, the best way to summarize that. It was a very controversial stand your ground court case, I guess would be one way to put it. And
although
yeah,
technically, stand your ground wasn't actually cited in this case.
No.
Oh,
But that gives the context for the fact that someone can, stalk an unarmed teenager and shoot him after or during a scuffle, and the stand your ground was just sort of the canvas on which that terrible thing was painted.
Right.
He felt he had the need to do so because of the kind of state he lived in.
In case
do you have
anybody
to
actually
stalk? Do you have to stalk and scuffle with them first? I'm not really. I'm not sure about the law.
If you feel threatened, that your life is threatened, apparently that's enough for you to pull a gun and shoot somebody.
Sure. Oh. If they play loud music that you don't like and you're in a parking lot, next to them, you can pull a gun and shoot them. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was it Florida, but it was a stand your ground kind of state.
Yeah, there was another guy who, I guess, the Trayvon Martin case. In case anybody not from the U.S. needs some background on that, there was a black teenager named Trayvon Martin who was walking through a gated community, and there was a guy who kind of thought himself a wannabe rent-a-cop sort of guy, and he was armed, and he started following Martin around because he thought he looked suspicious, and the two of them got into a fight. It's not really clear who started what, but what ended up happening is that the wannabe cop guy ended up shooting Martin and killing him. And it turned out that he was just visiting, I think he was visiting his girlfriend or somebody.
No, his family, his grandma, his dad, someone like that. And he'd gone to the store for Arizona tea and some Skittles, and he was wearing a hoodie. And
And
so,
apparently that made him
Well,
look
I mean,
threatening.
but come on, seriously, who drinks Arizona tea while eating Skittles? I mean,
That's just
that's not
disgusting.
shady.
I mean, not
I
to
don't
go
know.
too far into the weeds, but it's important to mention that during the pursuit, the initial stalking, where the shooter was in the car in his truck or whatever, called the cops, and the cops said, "Do not pursue this person. Leave it to the police. You've
He
alerted
said,
us,
yeah, you
and
don't
stay in
really
your
need to
car."
follow him.
Right, and so he was discouraged explicitly and went about
Yeah.
this vigilante nonsense anyway in the state where you have this sort of stand your ground, which means you have the right to defend your home, to be in any public place with a gun, and defend yourself if you feel threatened.
But what the social justice relevant part of this is that
Mhm.
you saw right away after this, you saw a whole bunch of people talking about how it was a white guy who shot a black teenager, an unarmed black teenager, and of course it turned out the guy was actually Hispanic. He wasn't just this white guy, and there was this instant jump to racism being the primary motivators for all of this instead of just some overzealous wannabe cop guy.
I'm pretty sure Hispanic is white unless you're talking about migrant workers.
Well, he just from his appearance alone, he has the appearance of somebody from Central America. So,
Or as Peter Griffin would say, some kind of Mexican. Is that what Peter
some
Griffin
kind
says?
of Mexican.
Oh my God. Terrible Peter Griffin. That guy. He gets my slacktivist hackles up. Anyway.
He grinds your gears.
Yeah, I love him. I love him.
He grinds my gears.
Yeah, but there was a lot of outcry, mostly online, from people across the country who basically took it upon themselves to kind of become spokespersons for black people in America, and it was weird because I saw a whole bunch of folks who pretty clearly weren't directly affected by any sort of actual racism going on.
That's most of the people that I can identify who would have had any strong outcry. If you will. Like those
black people in America.
Yeah, most of the people, who I have
Bundying on us here,
most of the people who I have some idea who they are that I heard outraged in one manner or the other were exactly that, people who were very much not affected by racism.
Yeah, they got offended on somebody else's behalf because they kind of like the charge that they get from the moral outrage.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have to admit, I was really bothered by it. I had no idea that stand your ground meant that you could just go in public somewhere and essentially gun somebody down. I was outraged. I'm guilty of not having lobbied for change or, written a new policy or done anything, and I don't generally get, of course, affected by, things that negatively affect black people, of course, but it's still terrible, and it's unacceptable to me that that the shooter basically just went home that night. I mean, he wasn't even arrested that night, so I guess I'm guilty of all this. It's kind of a hypocritical stance. It's a hypocritical stance for me to be on this show, but it's
you will be
it did bother me.
punished later.
It did bother me,
It's
though.
not going to be a circle.
At what point does moral outrage for something become just white knighting or becoming a social justice warrior?
I think when somebody decides to be offended for somebody who isn't actually offended.
Oh,
I
I
was
see.
gonna say,
Fake.
there's that, but there's also, it's kind of subjective too. So if you are legitimately offended by a certain topic, or a certain action, certain topic, something like that, and so you are very outspoken about it, and especially it seems if it's not the popular opinion in whatever location in which you're, or group in which you're voicing this opinion, then you can easily be considered a social justice warrior. Like, yeah, in the more colloquial term, it means people who are outraged with really, no good reason to be outraged, or about something that they don't really care that much about in the first place.
They're outraged because it's their hobby to be outraged.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something we see, like when we mentioned that LiveJournal and Tumblr are centers for social justice warriors a lot. There's a lot of that going on Tumblr. Like, if you ever visit Reddit, there's a forum on there called Tumblr in Action.
Huh.
Which could also be Tumblr in action, just equally well, but it's full of screenshots and links to posts of people doing stuff like this. Like there was a girl on there who, I guess it was a discussion of wearing like a sari and all this traditional Indian women's dress, and a girl was it was a girl talking about how Hinduism, it's hard being a Hindu because you can't eat hamburgers, and she really likes hamburgers. And somebody chastised her for appropriating the Hindu religion from the Indian people. And the very next post was the original person again. It's an Indian woman just staring like dumbfounded into the camera at this.
So here's a few subreddits if you ever decide to visit Reddit to look into this that seem to be kind of social justice centric, or at least have an awful lot of social justice warrior centric conversation. The one Mike mentioned, Tumblr in Action. It's also SJW News, men's rights, which don't get me fucking started on that.
Jesus
Circle
Christ,
Broke,
no.
Fat Logic, Tumblr Circle Jerk, which the name's funny. I probably won't ever visit it, but it's funny.
And it's usually satire, like tongue-in-cheek stuff.
Yeah. Conspiratard.
Which is great.
The Red Pill, which I don't see that one as so much SJW, but it comes up often enough, I suppose. SRS sucks. I'm not sure what is SRS. I see that mentioned a lot.
Shit, Reddit says is a forum that was
that's right.
kind of started as a joke, and
Yeah.
people have started taking it seriously. It's turned into like a social justice warrior hangout for people to complain about posts on Reddit.
There's also MRL self-post copies. Sorry. Yeah, once again, don't get me started on that.
MRL?
MRS.
Oh, okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. What is it? MR. You know what? Just forget it.
Fuck it. We'll do it live.
Fuck it. We'll do it live. Or Change My View, and then SJS Sucks, and then a couple others, but those are the ones that you'll find the most. So speaking of Reddit, there's a couple of SJW stories that I was made aware of through Reddit that are fairly recent. So this one, the most recent one that I know of, is the KFC disfigured girl. So the idea here was that in a KFC, and was it in Mississippi where this happened, I think? Supposedly happened? I think that's right. There was a girl that was supposedly asked to leave a Kentucky Fried Chicken because she was scaring the other customers, and the reason why is because her face was partially disfigured from, I want to say it was an attack by a dog attack, yeah. So people were considerably outraged by this. There was a lot of hem-hawing and how dare KFC, and I think in total,
and all of this stuff popped up before anybody actually verified that the story was true.
Which is very common with
viral on Facebook and Reddit and everywhere else, Tumblr, and everyone was outraged and calling KFC and demanding that people be fired and all this kind of stuff.
So KFC said they'd look into it. They donated $30,000 to this girl's family, and then I think in total it was over $130,000 that she received in donations. So after some time, come to find out, when this supposedly happened, she was still in the hospital. So this whole story never happened.
They actually went through and reviewed the security camera footage from the store that they said she was in. And during the time that her family claimed to have been there, there were no people there with little girls. There was a family there with a little boy, but as it turns out, there was a fundraising website somewhere that this family was raising money to help pay for all the surgeries this girl was going to need. And they had just posted that day about how she had been told they would be able to go home the next day from the hospital.
What? You know what? You guys are starting to make me doubt all that fundraising I do by clicking like and forwarding things so that, on forwarding things on email. Yeah, so that, this little kid can go to Disneyland. You're starting to make me doubt the veracity of those claims.
Oh my
God. What you're saying is liking is the least I can do, and I'm doing it.
The absolute least. Literally the least you can do.
Well, the thing about that, too, I mean, it was reported by news sites all over the place before the news sites had even, verified any of the facts or anything.
That's an unfortunately common occurrence these days. There's a big hoopla stirs up about insert story here, and so it gets picked up on the news as basically big stir on the internet about this thing, and the way that is presented in that manner. So, say McElroy puts some story online, and whether it's true or not, people are suddenly outraged by it. It becomes a big shitstorm, and next thing you know, you can report that as there's a big shitstorm about this story, that the story says this, whether you're saying it's true or not. Right, and now just because you're saying the story says this and there's a big storm about it, people, it's human nature, the way our brains work, we hear that and we say, oh, this must be true, and the news said this thing. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're reporting the shitstorm, but actually what you're doing is conveying who knows what kind of news or event.
Right.
Although, the history of, through history, this has been a kind of a thing, because there used to be ugly laws. Did you know that? Laws that people who were ugly or disfigured in some way could not appear in public, or they would be fined.
Yeah, that explains a lot, actually. I've been sent out of many places. That explains it. There you go.
Are you serious? I am skeptical.
Look it up on Wikipedia. I believe the last ugly law in the United States was only taken off the books in the 70s.
Well, I know Walmart doesn't have that kind of policy. I can tell you Walmart in Pittsburgh does not have that policy. They are an all-inclusive organization.
Hence the existence of the website People of Walmart.
People of Walmart, there you go.
So our next example of social justice warrioring, this is the most recent actually that I know was, and I just thought of it a minute ago. There's a video taken of a mother who was attacked by this other girl, and I say she's a mother because her 2-year-old son was there while she was being attacked by another woman. And in this video that was taken, the woman even threatens to kick this 2-year-old kid in the head at one point. So the very short version of the story is apparently they had both at one point been co-workers at a McDonald's. The one attacking the other had accused her, at least in the video, accused her of saying something about her to the manager. And there were a couple of things of outrage. One, as is pretty common with some of the places online, the woman who was attacking the other was a black woman, so there was a ton of racist comments. There were also a lot of comments about how there was this big group of people standing around, pulling out their phones, taking video of this attack and not helping. And so the social justice warriors were up in arms about racism. They were up in arms about people not helping out, and so on and so forth. And I quit paying attention pretty quickly, but I thought, how ironic. This is what we're going to talk about. And now here it is. Not ironic, I guess, but how fitting that
this seems to be something that I've seen a lot of videos online, especially when it comes to like videos of cops getting rough with people. Sometimes, there's instantly the assumption that you're seeing police brutality, or that this is just an unprovoked attack, and you're missing a lot of the context of what was going on before. Like, you don't really know what sparked this woman to get. Maybe she started this fight with somebody, and now she's getting beaten up. So I don't know. So
this could be an example of the bystander effect, which is, in short, it's when people don't offer any means of help to someone who's in some kind of crisis when other people are around. And I guess in part that's explained by thinking someone of authority or just someone else who can do better than I will handle this, and nothing gets done because of that. That's psychologically speaking, that's a fascinating and terrible aspect of our psychology, but it seems to play out often enough that I would call it a problem. And yeah, what you said about the context, that's important also. A lot of videos you'll see online or stories you'll read about, there's very little context to what's going on. So you see some police officer beating somebody up in a video, and sure, it's easy enough to be like, oh, there's another cop beating up on somebody.
I remember
what the context is.
There's a weird trend of some people on YouTube, some sorts of people who provoke the police to get physical with them just so that they can put a video of them getting abused by the police online.
I was like victimhood by cop on purpose, like intentionally
right.
provoking. Don't the gun guys do that? The gun nuts, like, oh, I'm going to bring a gun into a courtroom, and and open carry those people too. But yeah, it seems like they're trying to provoke authorities. Like, well, I have the right to have my AK-47 in McDonald's. Like, all right.
All right. There's one video I'm thinking of in particular where there was a couple who the wife was getting arrested for something, and she was like thrashing around on the ground and screaming and talking about how the cop was hurting her, and then near the end of the video, you see her look over at her husband with the camera and like motion to him to do something, and she just stops all of her noise for a minute, and then she starts thrashing around again, and it's pretty obvious that they're.
Oh, that's a good example of why I quit watching Cops like 20-something years ago. I won't go into that whole story.
It's pretty clear that they're trying to record the cops looking bad for some reason.
So our next one was the shitty tip server.
Remember
that? Yeah, tell us about that one, Mike.
Ongoing saga.
Yeah.
So there was, I don't remember what the restaurant was. I think it was like a Chinese food restaurant or something. There was a waitress at a restaurant who was a lesbian, and she had the the stereotypical kind of butch lesbian look. She got the short cropped hair and very, I don't know, but she had a family at her table. That she claimed had left her a note on the receipt with in the tip line saying that they didn't approve of her lifestyle and they couldn't give her a tip because of that or something like that. And there was a huge hubbub after that because she posted it on Reddit and a bunch of like Facebook, and it just went viral all over the place. And slowly as the weeks went on, more and more information kept coming out about this, like the fact that the family in question still had their receipt with the tip on it, and they had their credit card statement proving that they had in fact paid a tip. It came out that she had lied about having cancer to try to raise money from people in the past. She lied about, I guess she was in the military and she got dishonorably discharged, I think, for never showing up to the morning exercise routine things that they went through, and it's just.
Yeah, but they do it so damn early,
it just went on and on and on with more evidence coming forward that this was a very dishonest person who had tried to manipulate people in her favor in the past. But in the meantime, I mean, even when the story of the credit card receipt, the credit card payment, what is it? Damn it. When the story first came up that the family had their credit card bill showing that the tip had been paid, I mean, I got into a discussion with this guy on the Facebook comments of a news story somewhere where he was basically saying we needed to believe the server no matter what the company's lying to cover their asses. And it's like, well, they have a credit card bill showing the payment at the place that they said it was, and he kept saying that they faked the credit card payment, and basically that this family, which had no reason whatsoever to come forward and make themselves known, they could have just stayed anonymous. For some reason, these people were lying to smear the reputation of this waitress. It's that was the sort of thing that we're talking about here. The social justice warriors, they are saying that we have to stick on the side of the person who's from a group that's more often oppressed somehow.
Oh, yeah, vulnerable populations. Yeah, they're like pets. I have a pet vulnerable minority who's oppressed. They're my lapdog. Yeah.
Yeah, so this guy was basically on her side solely because she was a lesbian, and she had presented no evidence apart from this receipt to say that this had actually happened, and people are coming up with actual like documentation showing that she was lying, and other information was coming out proving that she was lying about other things, and this guy still stuck with it and started getting obnoxious and like tracked down my Twitter account and started tweeting at me, and it was just bizarre.
You're being hunted online by a social justice warrior?
Yes.
Oh no, is Mike McElroy gonna have to choke a bitch? That's gonna be unfortunate.
Oh, but yes, I think we could say that he was white knighting for her.
Yes. So then there's this one I'm not aware of, Patton Oswalt versus Salon. Mike Bowler, tell us about that.
Yeah, I just remembered that, and I'm on a shitty computer, so I can't seem to get to the story. But apparently, Patton Oswalt there's been some weird back and forth between the two, but what I thought was really neat was he did this. He posted a tweet, apologizing for making a racist comment, and almost immediately Salon jumps in and starts, oh, how terrible he is. He's racist. He should be doing all this stuff, and then he comes up and says, but I never posted anything. All I ever posted was the apology.
The apologies, yeah.
Yeah, and there was no racist message he ever put out, and I mean, totally, and laid it all out, and Salon totally screwed up, and no vetting, no anything, and just went after the guy just because he apologized. And it's like, that's.
I think it was a pretty brilliant bit, actually. I mean, he posted like a series of apologies for offensive tweets that he'd never actually made. And people went crazy attacking him for the things they assumed he'd said. And he said something afterward like, the things they invented for me to say were better than anything I could have ever actually said to apologize for.
Yep.
Do you remember a long time ago, Tommy Hilfiger was a victim of the same sort of thing for some reason, and I remember hearing this when I lived in Detroit. Some people became convinced that he didn't want black people to wear his brand, which I thought was ridiculous on so many levels because his stuff was in style, at least back then, and these people were his bread and butter as far as I could tell. Like, these are the cool clothes to have, they're expensive, and it's like, he's doing good business. Why would he have a problem with that? But I remember hearing from people who were like, oh, I boycott Tommy Hilfiger because he doesn't want black people wearing his clothes. I was like, he markets to black people. He's gone on Oprah. Like, I don't know how somebody can prove a negative, but he has done as much as he can to say this is not the case.
So there was, I found the story on Snopes already for this. Apparently back in like 1996, that early in the history of the internet, there were rumors going around after a news article that was purportedly from a Philippines tabloid started going around, where it was claimed that he had said on an Oprah show that she threw him off of. They said that he had claimed they claimed that he had said, if I knew that blacks and Asians were going to wear my clothes, I would never have designed them. And this actually just never happened.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me that someone made up something they put on the internet?
Wait, clear my schedule. Someone on the internet is wrong. I'm going to tell my Nigerian prince friend about this. He's going to be so mad.
Yeah, so apparently this myth has evolved, though. Apparently, it originally started off with him supposedly telling the style reporter on CNN that he didn't think Asians looked good in his clothes, and then the story morphed into Winfrey telling Oprah Winfrey the same thing about black people, and both of these people say that Hilfiger has never been a guest on their show.
Well, Hilfiger was, eventually. Maybe... I don't know when that was written, but I remember seeing.
1997.
Oh yeah. It was in the 2000s. I remember because he went through like, these are my charities I donate to. These are the people in my family. Like, I don't know what I can do, but I'm disturbed by it. It's not about my business. It's about me as a human being, and that it's an awful thing that has happened and is clearly not the case.
I definitely remember this story, and until just now, until I just looked on Snopes, I thought it was true. So yeah, that's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So another example is when the Casey Anthony trial was ongoing. Some time ago. First of all, I just want to say, fuck you, Nancy Grace. I hate you, and I hope you're off the air soon because you're a horrible human being, and you have no place being on television or anywhere in the public eye. You're a terrible, terrible troll. Go away. Anyway, now that having been said,
I was about to say, this is like Nancy Grace's bread and butter, is the missing white girl of the day.
Only if she's cute, though. Only if she's cute and fairly affluent. Yeah, that's the ones we care about.
Of course, recently, I guess you can't say the white girl of the day anymore because just recently she had a story about a little black boy who was missing, and they found him in a tunnel connected to his dad's basement.
Oh my God.
Apparently he'd been hiding there, and they had the dad on live when they announced that he'd been found, and for like 30 seconds he just made astonished faces, and it seemed almost like a setup.
Did Nancy Grace make sure to accuse him of something? Because that's very much.
She did ask him, "Did you search your basement? Did you search your basement?" And yeah, they apparently went down with police dogs and everything. But it felt very much like Balloon Boy 2.0.
Oh God! Oh my God! World's worst.
So sorry to completely derail the Casey Anthony topic there.
No, that's all right. I mean, it's along the same, well, sort of along the same lines. But with Casey Anthony, that was a case for how to summarize that? I guess she was on trial for the death of her daughter.
That she had reported missing for like a month.
Right. And the thing is this, like, regardless of her guilt or innocence, before the trial had even started, there was very much, like, there's a lot of fervor, and she's guilty, she killed her kid, she's terrible, she got to be put to death. And Nancy Grace, that's why I brought her up, was because she made, just like, she was very bold in making statements of Casey Anthony's guilt, and I thought,
she has a bad habit of that.
She called her Top Mom, and every night would be an update about Top Mom.
Yeah, I think we talked about that in either an episode of this or before we started doing the podcast when we were doing Hangouts. We talked about that, and like her deal is she will run with something like that, like the Top Mom thing, and she will just.
Wasn't she the one who basically convicted in the court of public opinion the Duke lacrosse players for raping the girl who actually turned out to be like a prostitute who was never raped, and ruined their lives in the media?
That sounds right. I don't know for sure that it was Nancy Grace, but that sounds like her. Well, she certainly she convicted Casey Anthony in the court of public opinion before.
When she went to prosecutor, she had 100% conviction rate. Isn't that terrifying? 100% conviction rate.
And she lost her job as a prosecutor for prosecutorial misconduct.
Oh, that I did not know.
Yeah,
I just knew she was batting 1,000.
So there's that.
Oh no.
So now here's one where I'm going to say that social justice warrioring does a good thing. The story of Karen Klein. This is, I think, about 2 years old.
Oh, this was fantastic.
Yeah, she was a bus monitor on a middle school bus, and there was video released of her just being relentlessly bullied and tormented by these middle school students. I mean, they would say the most awful shit to her, and she,
Bastards.
to her credit, just sat there and took it. She didn't flip her lid. She didn't show any.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it
She
was
was
just
elegant.
horrible. And so the social justice warrioring response was, I mean, it was a number of things of, these kids ought to be drowned or whatever, to that poor woman, we should do something for her, and that poor woman, we should do something for her crowd ended up rewarding her with a lot of sympathy and support and lots of donations. I assume she was able to get the hell away from that job.
Yeah, she retired, I think, because she was kind of nearing that age anyway, and it gave her enough where she could go on vacation and retire. Like, it was quite a bit of money. I was surprised, and it was fast. It was like 48 hours or 72 hours or something. Some ridiculous sum of money was raised, and she wouldn't have to do that anymore. And she was so sweet and graceful, and when she was interviewed, she just couldn't believe the public outpouring. Yeah, these kids were monstrous. Monstrous.
Yeah, ask me why I'm never having kids.
This next topic is one of my favorite stories of the last
Yes, the cancel Colbert. So Stephen Colbert was taking jabs at Washington Redskins owner Dan Snyder in a satirical manner, in which he revisited a feed of an older skit, which I don't know if it was just made up for this show. I think it might have been. But anyway, in the older skit, he played a character, Ching Chong Ding Dong. And in this episode, he said he would make amends for having done that bit with a new, quote, Ching Chong Ding Dong Foundation for Sensitivity to Orientals or whatever. And yeah, so a veritable shitstorm arose, namely on Twitter, as I recall, wherein people were calling for anything from an apology to outright cancellation of Colbert's show. It was a fucking mess.
Yeah, so Dan Snyder, the Washington Redskins owner, Dan Snyder, in response to all the criticism of the use of the term Redskins as the name of the team, decided to make something like the Washington Redskins Foundation for Native American something, and he kept the term Redskins in the fucking name of the thing, which was the fucking problem in the first place, and he didn't get that. And so Stephen Colbert decides to make a joke about it by saying, I'm sorry for using a character named Ching Chong Ding Dong, and coming up with a foundation with Ching Chong Ding Dong in the name. So it's pretty obviously a joke. It's a satire.
Yeah, it's a reductio ad absurdum. Yeah.
There was this lady named Suey Park. Oh, Suey Park. Who went onto Twitter and started talking about how we should cancel Stephen Colbert's show, and just started making the hashtag cancel Colbert go viral, and she showed up. I think my best part of this whole story was her appearance on some show on the Huffington Post, where somebody asked her about this, and like basically was mocking her through the whole thing very subtly by saying, "So you're a writer, right? You do understand what satire is." And she started talking, and this right here, she is the perfect example of the social justice warrior that I have problems with. She starts talking about how white people use satire and think satire is an okay way to get away with jokes that are offensive.
Oh, she's saying we are Quentin Tarantino. Well, we're not.
Yeah,
Quentin Tarantino.
Basically, her entire shtick is talking about how white people is stereotyping white people. So
in her defense, and only slightly in her defense, I will say sometimes that is the case.
Oh, it is sometimes.
Sometimes that is the case, but it is not.
In this instance, she thought that this was this. She did not think that this was funny.
Right.
I think it's pretty funny, and I think it's right on point for showing what the problem is with Dan Snyder's obliviousness. But somehow she thought this was egregious enough to get Stephen Colbert pulled off the air, and she started talking about how white men think that no one else can think rationally or have an opinion that's worth listening to. And and what did she say? She said something like, she said something about white men don't think anyone else is allowed to have an opinion. And the host said, "Well, I think you're perfectly fine to have your own opinion. I just think it's a stupid opinion." And then she started getting huffy about, "Oh, you just called it stupid," as if we're not allowed to call stupid opinions stupid.
Oh, you're beyond ridicule if you're a minority of any kind. Oh, that's ridiculous.
She was very much, And just looking at her other posts, she is clearly racist against white people. But
Right.
but there's this idea that you cannot be racist against white people
Right.
because the social justice warrior definition of racism is prejudice plus power. So if
Yeah.
you have a white person do something to a black person that's overtly racist, that's racist. But if a black person does exactly the same thing to a white person, it's not racism because they don't have power.
So are you allowed to be half racist? How does that work out as far as percentages go? Like, do you pick on yourself? How does that work? Like,
I don't know. I
understand.
think that about half the time I can be racist, and the other half I'm just a oppressed minority. So, yeah.
Okay.
I'm constantly
Okay.
oppressing myself. It's very sexy.
That's what I'm wondering. Like, how I don't know how that works.
You have like, is there some kind of role play you do? You know what? Don't answer that.
Too much information.
Yeah.
I wear half of a set of manacles and half of a Nazi uniform.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm going to hell for laughing
I'm
at
done
that.
with this.
I was gonna make a
podcast.
Roots joke, but then I thought, let's just move on.
Fuck it, let's go
Nick is
live.
Kunta
Just do
Kinte.
it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You can't edit me into being a better person.
My name is
just because
Kunta
it's on
Kinte
YouTube.
O'Shaughnessy.
Oh, I have a quick question. Was there much social justice hubbub, since I don't keep up with it much, about the Lululemon guy? Because that guy just outright.
Yeah,
he
that's
seemed-
another one I was gonna say. There was a lot of SJW outrage, and there's another one where I think, like, yeah, this is another instance where that guy kind of deserves whatever
He deserves
outrage is
it,
thrown
yeah.
at him. He's a
rude
fucking
prick.
Yeah, he's just
I
a
missed
prick.
this. What was this about?
So Lululemon is a is it still a thing, or
Yeah.
was anyway? Like,
Yeah.
I just okay, so it's a line of
A high-end thing.
a high-end line, very expensive line of, I guess, among other things, yoga clothing.
Mhm.
And the original scandal, if you will, started with people saying that there's a problem with these yoga pants, that you could see through them.
Is that a problem? I don't understand.
I don't know. As a man, I have no problem with that. Anyway, so moving on. And this guy, I don't remember his name, but his response, the guy who created these, his response was, to sum up, was no fat chicks. Like, basically, you're too fat to wear them. That's why you can see through them. You're stretching
Fat
the fabric too
thighs.
much.
Fat thighs.
Oh, Jesus. So then,
You know, if you don't
make
want to
things-
stretch the
make things
fabric,
worse. He was quoted as
lose
having
a few pounds, lady.
he was quoting as having said, to make things worse, he was quoting as having said, the reason he named them Lululemon is so that Asian people would have trouble pronouncing the name.
No.
Yes, it was on Colbert, and Colbert said that's hilarious.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, that's what Colbert said. It's recent, fairly recent, last few
You
months.
guys are terrible.
I couldn't believe
Oh,
these.
John.
Hilarious. But yeah, if you watch Colbert, it was the last few
I'm
months.
belly offended.
Are you appropriately outraged?
I'm appropriately
Appropriately outraged.
as a fat chick and a lapsed yoga practitioner. I'm outraged.
So I was going to say, what are some of the problems with social justice warrioring? I guess we've covered some of those, but to point a couple out, one is that often you have to make logical leaps to do,
Yeah.
if you will, effective social justice warrioring.
That's not my cat.
That is your cat. Also, it takes a lot of major assumptions. The
Yeah.
Casey Anthony trial is a really good example of major assumptions where, Miss Social Justice Warrior herself, Nancy Grace, just made a bunch of assumptions about Casey Anthony and about how the trial would play out or should play out.
This is something I've noticed a lot with people online, especially, is that when you're having a discussion with these people, yes, I mean these people,
What do you mean, those people?
they have a tendency to interpret the things that you're saying in the least charitable fashion possible. Like, I've had discussions with people, especially in discussions of like problems in the skeptical and atheist community regarding the treatment of women. There have been discussions I've gotten into with people where I fundamentally agree with the things that they're saying. Like, I agree with like the way that they want to handle allegations of abuse and misconduct at conferences, for example. But I disagree with the way that they're coming off at people, because I think that if they like change their message somehow, they'd be able to get more people to agree with them. Because I see a lot of times you'll see people getting attacked, and they'll jump on somebody for a poor choice of words, as if it fundamentally means that they hold a different opinion that they really do. And like they start, and anybody who disagrees with them, they might call them a rape apologist.
Yeah, they're very quick to catastrophize and
That has
straw
happened to you, has
man
it
and
not?
misrepresent people very
And
quick.
when I say that I'm not a rape apologist, I agree with what you're saying. I just think that the way you're saying it is not really conducive to people paying attention to you. they say, oh, you're just telling us women to stop being uppity and shut up.
Oh, come on
That has
now.
specifically
Uppity?
happened to you, has it not?
Yeah, that has happened to me specifically when I'm talking to people. And it's like,
Uppity.
I'm not telling you to shut up. I'm saying your message needs to be heard. Let's say it in a way that people are going to listen.
They shouldn't say uppity to you though. That like you have the right to. You can be like, I'm
That's
super
my
offended
word.
now. As part, yeah.
Is that
like,
racist?
Because I'm part black, you're not allowed to wield uppity at me. You know what? Because that was a shut the fuck up black person kind of thing to say to people back in the day.
Yeah.
That is not okay. So you could out tantrum them.
And
you
then I
have all
get
kinds of
And,
cards.
and that's the word from the uppity mouthy feminist.
She dork at large. Is that
So-
a fat joke?
Oh my gosh. One of the things I love is like things we mentioned earlier where people don't really do a whole lot to verify the things that they're reading about.
Mhm.
And they if something agrees with their opinion, that they're more likely to just say, okay, yeah, I believe this, and not really give a whole lot of critical thought to it. Like one example I think of, there was a story going around, God, for years now. I think the oldest example I saw of it was from 2007, that it said that the actual first president of the United States was a black man, and that history has been rewritten to try to conceal this fact from people. That,
What was his name? Tell me he had a cool name.
I think. Let me see.
Big Daddy Cool, something like that.
Thinking, was it like a
that's
70,
racist.
like a 70s movie name or something?
John Hanson. John Hanson was the first president of the Continental. No, not the Continental Congress. It was before the Constitution was actually written.
13 colonies.
Couldn't have been like Dolomite Hancock, because that'd be
He was
fucking
the
cool.
president of the Continental Congress, yeah, before the Constitution was signed. It was the first president to serve a one-year term under the provisions of the Articles of Confederation. However, if you go to all these websites that are referenced by these social justice warrior types, that are usually black people trying to talk about how the role of black people in much of history has been concealed.
Is that your white half being racist?
No.
What?
This is me being factually honest. This story is that this man was actually black, and that people have, like, the paintings of him were painted as a white man so that nobody would know he was a black man. The problem here is there actually was a man named John Hanson who was the president of Liberia in the 1800s.
Wait, that's a different country?
And people are yes, it's in Africa. Actually, a country founded by liberated slaves who
Yeah, that
went
makes
to Africa
sense.
to start their own country. But John Hanson, they have photographs of him, and people were showing these photographs as photographs of the 1700s John Hanson, using them to prove that the first president of the United States was a black guy. Now, photography didn't exist in the 1700s, and nobody even thought that far when they were considering whether or not this story was actually true.
Folks, I'd like to take just a brief moment here to have you think for just a minute about how important funding for education in America is.
You're starting to make me doubt my coins that have Jesus on them that say like 2000 BC. Like, what? You guys are really putting some seeds of doubt in my mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to enjoy my Saturday or not.
I just remembered another story. There was a picture.
Killingtons.
It was a picture of a man who had scars on his face, and it was somebody on Tumblr had captioned it, "The Joker without face paint." And the first reply to this was this angry rant about how he was this poor man who had been disfigured in an accident and he probably faced discrimination all through his life and everything. And the next one was, "No, you fucking idiot. It is literally the Joker without face paint from The Dark Knight." It was a screen grab of the fucking movie.
Don't I feel like a fucking asshole? Wow.
So being information poor is one of the key attributes of the social justice warriors that
Is information, accurate information, and outrage, are they inversely correlated?
I think it's fine to be outraged when you have accurate information, but if you just see a story and just at first glance become outraged without digging into it to find anything
That's
else
what I
out
mean, yeah. Outrage inversely correlated. Like the more information you have, like the more outrage you have, the less information. Like there's some correlation
Usually,
between
yeah.
being obnoxious and outraged and knowing
They took our gerbs!
They took her job! I hate you guys.
All right, well, let's see. What do we have next? The next problem with social justice warrioring is making a habit of being offended for someone else who isn't offended because they get high off the moral outrage, which I guess we kind of covered all that really. Like,
Is that like sniffing your own farts? Is it that same kind of like smug or whatever?
it is.
It's like that.
Not smelling yourself, yeah. No, I've definitely seen on the Tumblr and Action Forum on Reddit links to people who were posting, like, say, for a white person posting for a minority group about how they need to be defended against blah, 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 blah.
All right.
And the minorities are like, please don't tell us what we need to do. We aren't offended by this. We don't need you to be offended by it for us. And there's often this sense of the white social justice warrior who wants to be the paragon of defense for the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
As if that isn't patronizing enough.
I was just going to say, as if they need rescuing from the great white hope that is some privileged, patchouli-smelling girl who doesn't shave her legs somewhere. Like, please, come on now. Send death threats, hate mail to feedback at irreverentskeptics.com.
I have a thought on that because I get really pissed off by some of the racist things I see, and so I understand that drive to be like, look, you know, you're doing us a disservice, and us is like, I guess the way to put it is like, you're doing me a disservice because you're promoting, you know, you're promoting racism, and that can, you know, that's a big problem. And as a white guy, like, that's a fucking problem. I'd like to do something about it. I don't know how can I stop that? Like,
yeah, I mean,
but you're offended as a human being.
Yeah,
as a spokesperson for the people that are being picked on. Not like I speak for, you know, Native Americans or whatever. No, you say I, John, am annoyed because I'm, you know, a person who thinks people should be equal, etc. You're offended as a thinking, rational person.
I have not recently, but I've been accused of being not exactly a social justice warrior, but of being offended for no good reason at racism. And I'm like, there is good reason. Like, there is good reason to be offended because. Yeah. First of all, it's just being hateful to people, regardless of your reason. It's just being hateful to people, and that's not cool, right? Whether you're being hateful because of their skin color, their intelligence, their gender, whatever. Like, none of that. There's no reason to be hateful to other people and mean to other people. That, I guess, that's for me. That's the core of it. Is, why are you being hateful to this person who you're hateful because they identify as, you know, insert any kind of classification here? That just. Yeah, that pisses me off, but I certainly don't go on social justice rants about it, not usually anyway. And
when you do it, you're speaking on your behalf. That is the key. They don't need your rescuing this group. You're just saying, I don't want to live in a world where this is okay. You're trying to normalize enlightened, rational thinking, whereas, you know, I think what Mike's getting at is, like, the whole, like, white knight rescuing people thing is what's offensive. How patronizing to be like, these people are not only being oppressed, they're also too stupid to handle things themselves, and they need me to come in and swoop in as if I have all kinds of answers and power, and I'm going to do
something.
Sort
of assuming that you can come up with answers that they won't be able to on their own.
Right.
Yeah. Assuming that you know more because, I don't know.
Because you read, what is it, Too Long Didn't Read or whatever, you did that, and you looked at Reddit? Yeah. TLDR. Looked at Reddit.
Yeah. I guess I've been accused of that certainly online when I moderate a few different kinds of groups, and when I will stamp down on the hate speech of any particular kind. Like, sometimes I've been called the equivalent of a social justice warrior for that, and really it's just like, don't be a fucking dick. Like, you can make all kinds of off-color jokes, just don't be a fucking dick.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had the political correctness police here. No, we're not political correctness police. We're just saying that you don't have to be an asshole all the time.
Yeah, that's the don't be a dick if you're an atheist kind of thing. Like, it's just not effective. It's just a terrible, ineffective thing.
Yeah,
you can make edgy jokes without being a shithead.
I've noticed that a lot of times when people complain about being politically correct about things, it's because they want to be dicks about something, and they don't like being told to be decent human beings.
Like, we have to mind our P's and Q's at conferences. No, the simple, normal etiquette you have anywhere else. That's how you behave yourself.
Usually when I see it online, it's in response to one of three things. Women, gay people, and minorities.
Yeah, marginalized groups, right.
It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had to be politically correct with all the gay people out there flaunting their lifestyle in front of us anymore. I think we should just say it like it is. Well, yeah, you can go ahead and think that to yourself. Tell it to your friends. Don't just come out and spout off in public about all this hateful bullshit.
You can be free to say it, and I'm free to ridicule you. I'm free to disapprove. I'm free to talk shit to you. Like, it is not okay. It is not okay, and I'm going to say so. Like, that's all there is to it. I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells. I'm asking you to be a decent human being.
Yeah, which is another problem I have with social justice warriors is actually the constant need to have
Mm-hmm.
things cleansed and sanitized for them. Like the concept of the trigger warning is it's people who have had extremely stressful and what's the word?
Traumatic life events.
Yeah, extremely stressful and traumatic life events who actually suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. There will be some things that trigger them to have an episode that's really bad news for them. Like you don't want to trigger somebody who has PTSD. But the thing about triggers for most people with PTSD is that they typically aren't directly related to the thing that caused them to have PTSD. Like if somebody's in a war zone and they get traumatized by it, it's not that watching a movie about a war is going to trigger them. They might hear a car backfire, and it'll remind them of an IED going off somewhere, and then they'll go and have an episode. But what's happened in the world of the social justice warriors online is anytime someone has had a bad childhood, for example, I've actually seen somebody say, "I had a bad childhood, please don't post pictures of happy families." Like, really?
That's got to be a post. That cannot be real.
And people who are
happy family.
They say don't post pictures of food. Don't.
What?
And it's like
all my life is happiness and food. What else do I have?
I mean, discussion of the subject is not what triggers people to have post-traumatic stress episodes. It's in the actual like legitimate diagnosed PTSD. Just discussing the thing that caused you to have it isn't going to trigger you to have an episode. But what you see online is the trigger warning thing. Like people like proceed a blog post with trigger warning discussion of such and such a topic. Like, are you like trying to pre-censor things so that people who don't want to read certain things don't have to read certain things? I mean, I can understand that, but they take it to extremes. Like, discussion of gender is apparently a trigger warning for some people.
It can be reasonable. Like, for instance, a good thing to put a trigger warning is, if I were going to do some kind of blog post about, I don't know, about animal welfare, and I'm going to post a video or just graphic descriptions of terrible things happening to animals, like, that is worth putting a trigger warning, because someone like, although I would not do that, someone like me would be like, oh yeah, I don't actually want to see that.
I'll have nightmares.
But I mean, I wouldn't even call that a trigger warning. I'd call that a disclaimer.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Well, what I'm saying is like colloquially now, like in this day, colloquially, trigger warning can be used in that sense. Like in that case, I would say it's okay to use trigger warning. In that case, like if you don't want to see it, this is a thing that will upset you, then don't look at this thing at this topic.
Sort of a tag. It said animal cruelty.
So do you think that's a bad use of trigger warning then?
Yeah, I mean, the
waters
social
it down.
justice warrior type all the time talks about appropriation.
You're such an apologist. What is your problem?
It's your male privilege.
This concept of appropriation that they use a lot is that the idea that somehow you're attempting to take over a behavior or a tradition or something from another group. And here we have an example of them actually appropriating the concept of the trigger. Like they're actually trying to take this concept, which has a legitimate definition in mental health, and apply it to anything that makes them mildly upset.
Yep. And they're watering it down. The word trigger means less things now. It means now, what did you just say? Disclaimer. That's what it means now. I take it when I hear trigger warning to mean disclaimer.
Disclaimer. This post will contain discussions of birds.
And happy families and food. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and
that was a thing. That's crazy.
The constant increase of the number of trigger warnings that people post on things. I think that it's what was it? There's social justice warriors have come up with all sorts of new labels for themselves. Also, like there's people who have decided that they secretly have a split personality, and one of their personalities is a fictional character.
What?
Or a fictional species. No. These are they call themselves multiple sets or multiple something like that. What? And they say that they're serious about this and that it actually is a thing.
What?
And they've never been diagnosed with anything. They just kind of invented this because they want to be special snowflakes.
Oh, special, unique, beautiful butterflies on the interwebs.
And there are also people who multiple systems. That's what they call themselves.
Oh my
God. There's also people who call themselves otherkin, which say
Oh,
that they have the soul of an animal or the soul of some non-human thing. And then sometimes they'll have an episode where they suddenly start behaving like that other thing. Like there was a guy who said he was a wolfkin, and he started scratching and growling at people in the grocery store, and he couldn't control it, and he never knows when it's going to happen. It's just all this bullshit that they just invent.
That can't be real. That's a Poe.
Oh, that is I believe that's the
It's
asshat syndrome.
I've seen people on the Tumblr in Action forum on Reddit who used to say that they were these things, and they say, oh yeah, it's definitely all a role-playing thing that we decide to take too seriously because we have a desire to feel special. It's all about that, and they're mutually self-reinforcing, and they just all. And there are people who will who attack the Reddit forum for not taking it seriously, and they say that they're offensive to multiple systems and things like that. It's like, really?
You
Come
don't value
on.
my imaginary friend that lives in my head? That's ridiculous.
Yes.
That is ridiculous.
Like one girl had an imaginary friend that was a character from the TV show Angel, for fuck's sake.
I can't believe I'm laughing at all these people suffering. Oh, it is so funny.
But they're not suffering. That's the thing, is they make it all up.
Well, yeah, it's a hobby. It's like I found a way to be ridiculous and suffer, and I'm being mistreated.
Is that a good example of competitive suffering?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
They want to be an oppressed minority of some kind, but they don't actually have any attributes that make them a minority, so they invent some.
That's a first world problem, if ever there was one. If you tried to explain to someone poor in Somalia about, okay, there's these girls, or, those are the ones that really annoy me. There are these girls who have a nice education, a nice home life, everybody loves them, nothing really bad has happened, and you know what they do? They pretend to be a fairy online, and when people laugh at that or criticize it, they insist it's real and insist they're being
so mean
marginalized.
for not taking my multiple system seriously.
What was that one girl? She got PTSD from reading stuff online or from what people said to her? Like, what? I wish I could meet her to be like, that is bullshit. That is my professional
People were attacking her on Twitter, and she said she got PTSD from it because, you're forced to read Twitter and you can't just not read it.
If you're that delicate that 140 characters, no matter what they say, can mess with you, you don't need to be on the Twitters or the Facebooks or the Snoopy Snoop Boop Dogs. Like,
what?
That's a Sandy Vag claim if ever I've heard one.
Is that related to Sandy Hook at all?
No.
Oh, I just don't want to Google anything.
Trigger warning.
Email
Trigger warning,
feedback
dead
to
kids.
Irreverent.
Speaking of competitive suffering, there is an acquaintance at my job, that's as much as I'll name this person, who, if you have any kind of complaint, the traffic was bad today. Oh, you think your traffic was bad? This was mine.
Oh no!
Man, I couldn't sleep well last night. Oh, you think you couldn't sleep last night? Let me tell you about mine. Oh, that is someone who I can't talk to someone like that. Like, all right, yeah, your life is terrible then.
The one-upper.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I didn't have a word for it until I met Brandy. She's the one who introduced me to the term competitive suffering. But for the longest time, I was like, what is it with these people that want to one-up you when something, like, I had this thing happen that was, it was frustrating or angering or just uncomfortable or whatever. It was like a negative experience, and they want to one-up my negative experience. Why is that? Like, I don't understand that.
What was it, the Monty Python sketch with the guys talking about their childhoods, and, like, one of them had to eat glass every day for breakfast, and they're like, oh, luxury! We had to live in filth and bathe ourselves in fire.
That was the four Yorkshiremen.
I never saw it.
It's definitely worth watching. It's pretty fun.
Oh, we should link to it.
It's a lot online.
There's this by Brian Thompson on Amateur Scientist Industries. I forget the name of the podcast. Anyway, it's a series of shows about they're just fake podcasts, basically. and there was one where they were pretending to be people who were who were secret really dragons, and that was pretty hilarious.
The Dragonborn. We should see if
Mike, do you know that one? What was the name of that podcast again?
It used to be a podcaster like you. Then I took a mic in the knee.
I've heard one called, I think, Pseudocast that sounds a lot like what you're talking about. Like every episode was a different fake podcast.
Huh.
No.
I don't know.
Hold on, let me just... okay, it's loading up on me now.
Your tolerance, Mike, for absolute drivel and nonsense, and you're like some kind of masochist. You go to these really crazy movies and interact with these people that it would make my head explode. It really would. It would not be safe for me to do by the hour the things that you do. And I'm grateful because I much prefer hearing it from you in tidbits than actually going and experiencing any of these things for any length of time.
Oh, speaking
I will
of
agree that
drivel,
some of the people you will put up with conversing with is just it's amazing.
It's
You have a
astounding.
capacity for that I will cut that off far faster than you will.
And Mike Bowler, that goes for you too. The conspiracy crap that you read or listen to, the amount of nonsense, it's admirable. I just don't have it. I get mad just listening to your reports of it.
Well, wait till once I get this show, you'll wonder why my head isn't
in pieces all over the room.
And actually, I kind of owe it to Stuart Robbins. He's been feeding me a lot of even better stuff. He's getting into some really strange areas. I don't know.
So your podcast is now being ghostwritten by Stuart Robbins?
Almost.
On the subject of annoying drivel that you wonder why I watch it, God's Not Dead will be on Netflix this fall.
Oh my God!
I might put it on in the background. That's how I had to do Jesus Camp.
Yeah, when I'm not around.
And freak. Oh God. Yeah.
Brandy has started filtering what she watches on TV to keep me from being like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
It's a challenge.
Or I say, well, okay, we can watch Jon Stewart, but only if it's not going to put you in a grumpy mood where you hate humanity. And we turned it on, and what is it? It's about cockfighting. I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
I think you mean cockboxing.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It started off about, oh, they're not going to have cockfighting anymore in this state, but this guy who's a legislator wants there to be cockboxing. And John's looking, he's all guys pissed off.
I'm watching this guy talking, I'm like, I just want to punch this guy in his fucking mouth. Like,
cockboxing is not to be confused with the things you'll see on XTube, by the way.
Yeah, this is not a chastity device of any kind. This is about chickens and how sad. But I just said to him, we can watch it if it's not going to make you hate humanity. And the next thing I know, he's got his I hate humanity face on.
What are you going to do? So just a quick round. I think we'll probably all agree on this. But the question on here, what do you guys think? Is social justice warrioring ever a good thing? Or along that same lines, is it more often good or bad? Brandy?
I will say that it has the potential once in a while to do something like raise awareness, for instance, of the bus driver who was being abused and do something corrective, actually take action and fix something, just literally fix it. And I think that's a fantastic thing. But outrage as a hobby that you do nothing with, that's just outrage for outrage's sake and offense for being offended's sake and new and exotic ways to be offended, I think that's really destructive and kind of toxic.
I find that opinion offensive. Dumbass, what do you think?
Well, yeah, I guess if you know, it's hard to think because like I get offended at a lot of things and sometimes I'll go on and I like I said I've been accused of white knighting before, so I hope I'm not and but I actually have convictions about this. I'm not just trolling or anything. So and people, I just don't get why people would go on and just. I guess moral outrage is something that is really easy to inflame within yourself and something that really you should think through more. I mean, like we all listen to Cognitive Dissonance, and that's a show where you want to get angry a lot listening to it.
I have actually stopped listening to almost all of my atheist podcasts for that reason because I fucking hate humanity after a while, and so I've taken a break. I'm just now getting back to some of them.
That is completely understandable. So I guess there's a line there that you've got to draw. But
I think that as long as you don't keep your expectations for humanity too high, you'll never be too disappointed by what you hear on those shows.
Good point. Good point.
All right, Michael McElroy, some thoughts.
None.
All right, Mike Bowler, what do you think?
Yeah, my thoughts out already.
You know, it could do some good, but you know what? I mean, I could see harm. I mean, actually, even serious. I remember, what was it? There was a while ago about, like even the newspapers they were doctoring photos from Lebanon and making it look like the war, or whatever the fighting that's going on over there was a lot worse. And then you get people up in arms or whatever, and next thing you know, we're sending troops to some other faraway country to beat up on these people, and that's it's almost like I could see a lot of harm through the these when they mostly the unfounded topics. It's
I
like
just realized. Isn't that what started the Spanish-American War?
Social justice warrioring.
Pretty
Two
much.
smelling girls with hairy legs.
There were a couple of competing newspapers who were trying to drum up subscriber numbers, and so they just invented a bunch of stories about what was going on, and like called for military action that started the war.
Oh, I can't believe we missed it. It reminded me of that. I just thought of that. What was his name? That was a big campaign, and they had this really compelling video about child soldiers, and it was like, what was it?
2012.
Yeah, it was that whole thing. Wasn't that some kind of crazy social justice thing that was actually more complicated and messed up, and they actually did a lot of harm by that?
Yeah, Brian Dunning had an episode on slacktivism recently, which was really good, and talked about the Coney 2012 campaign, which basically was just that the entire all the funds that went towards this did absolutely nothing to help find Coney or to help the child soldiers. The entire purpose of the campaign was to raise money for the organization to make more YouTube videos.
And to get that little kid nightmare.
Often a lot of fundraising campaigns, unfortunately, are just to raise funds for the fundraising campaign company.
Yeah, look at all those things about yellow, support our troops, all of that stuff. Like, who makes money is the people that sell the support our troops. It's like, you want to support our troops, give them the health care they were promised. How about that?
Mike, you're totally right, though. It definitely can be harmful when you have all this money getting thrown at something that does nothing to solve the actual problem here. Like, you're raising awareness of people who have no power to solve the problem. What's the point other than to suck money out of their bank accounts?
Mm-hmm.
And the stuff they can do, they're not going to do. For instance, vote or suggest legislation, lobby, show up in D.C., write your congressman, email your congressman. Like, those things actually do something. I mean, that's how SOPA got stopped. Public outrage does work, but there are certain channels, and it seems like they actually don't participate in those channels so much as they tweet about it.
And apparently the Coney thing had already been addressed by President Obama, and there were already people going to try to find him. Like, they had already sent out soldiers into the country to find him by the time this video was made, so it was just totally pointless. Other than
did we drone strike any families in the search for that?
Are you trying to say that me defriending him on Facebook did not actually do anything? You're terrible. I swear. I'm so dejected now. I'm dejected.
1 out of 5 stars. Bad rating on Amazon.
I'm putting on Yelp. Would not friend again. Would not co-host with again.
F minus. No Coney for me.
I don't know that I can sum up. I have any thoughts that would sum up better than you guys already have. I would echo that thought that occasionally the awareness that's created about some things can be helpful, and I would say, at least in the cases I've seen more often than not, it's just problematic, and it's just a way for people to argue and put across viewpoints that are ridiculous or disingenuous. So in our Q&A, apparently Susan's there channeling the Bhagavad Gita. She says, "I'm Godkin. I have the soul of a god, and I must go destroy things and people now. Excuse me." Well, have fun, Susan.
Well, in an effort not to offend you, I will believe all of the things you say, and I'm fine with whatever you do. You go, sister. You go.
Our God is an awesome God. Our Godkin is an awesome Godkin.
Well, Godkin is not dead, apparently. I'm just saying.
Also, please, Susan, cure my diabetes.
Oh.
Please.
Oh.
Can I have a miracle fat cure while you're at it? Because I've got a few pounds I'd like to be rid of, so if you're Godkin, then maybe you could just zap those away somehow.
Is there anything you have 2 of that you only need 1 of, John? Limbs, organs.
Am I going to wake up in a tub of ice tomorrow? God damn it, they took my kidney.
Welcome to the magical world of AIDS. Scroll on the mirror.
Nobody will be outraged, though, because you're a middle-class white guy.
I'm going to be misspelled.
Yeah, John. You have so much privilege as it is.
Nobody cares, yeah. I'll put up a poster at Whole Foods. I'll see what I can do, but I don't think anybody will care.
Please support the United John Ornby College Fund.
So, McElroy, I hear you have a new idea for a podcast coming up. What's up with that? Tell us about that.
Yes. So, my girlfriend was raised as a kind of nominal Catholic who she said, I guess her mom was religious whenever it was socially acceptable or socially necessary for her.
Christmas and Easter?
Christmas,
Basically,
Easter,
yeah.
Christmas.
So we are going to go through and read the Bible, which she has very little experience with, and we're just going to sort of capture her responses to it. And because we were listening to the Scathing Atheist podcast the other day, and they mentioned something about the story of Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt, and she said, "Wait, what?" Because she'd never heard the story before, and I'm just kind of shocked by that. So I think it should be fun to go through and hear how she responds to this stuff.
Oh, it'll be so funny. It'll be like a different take on Thomas and the Bible kind of thing, but with the two of you, the dynamic will be totally different. It'll be great.
The part about Lot's wife turning into a pillar of salt isn't the most shocking part of that story.
No, not at all.
Not even a little bit.
Don't ruin it. She's listening. Don't ruin it. Don't ruin it.
Oh, I can't talk about the angels.
No
and the
spoiler alert. No.
Daddy's
Okay,
girls
fine.
are not in good
Daddy's
shape.
girls. Anyway.
All right. So, Dumbass, what's new and exciting on the Dumbass Media Empire?
Oh, lots of new and exciting stuff. Let's see. We're talking about feminism on the Amateur Skeptics.
Uh-oh. That ought to be good.
That's appropriate.
Strangely enough, nobody got yelled at, so we're doing good. We're doing okay.
Setting the bar high. That's right.
But we did a story on exploding vibrators. Did I mention that already?
Exploding vibrators.
Ow. That is not a first world problem. That is. I have what do you call appropriate outrage right now just at the thought of it.
I saw you guys released an episode on misogyny and consent, and I have not listened to it yet, but I intend to.
If your vibrator explodes, leave a bad review on Amazon for sure, ladies. Warn other women. Come on.
Unless you're into that kind of thing, then you're like.
It's a very
5
limited
stars.
fetish. You can only do it like once. I think.
It's very self-limiting.
What happened is that apparently some guy planned to he loaded a vibrator full of gunpowder or something,
Oh,
and,
Jesus Christ.
and he was planning to give it to an ex-girlfriend or something, or I don't know. It
Worst
was really weird.
Valentine's ever.
Please tell me he was test driving it and he blew a new hole in his ass, please.
Talk about
He didn't say that's what
appropriate.
happened. No, nobody got hurt.
Oh, good. Fuck, what is wrong with some fucking people? Fuck you, humanity.
Now, if I use the word misogynist, that doesn't mean anything because it's overused so badly, but, that's something terrible.
What? You want to talk about words that are watered down? How about rape? There's a word watered down.
Oh, and I'm
That's
guilty of that,
If
too.
it's a
I hate
legitimate
that.
rape, it has a meaningful definition.
Well,
that is
legitimate rape, women's bodies are magic that way, which is why ethnic cleansing never happens and no one ever gets pregnant when they're raped. That's why.
Jesus Christ.
Because lady bits are magic, that's why.
Do you believe in magic vaginas?
Oh, my God.
So Mike Bowler, tell us about what's coming up on next on the Skeptic's Guide to Conspiracy. Jesus.
Well, I'm still working on my Illuminati. I've got it's going to be a clip show with some the crazy stuff. So that's something to listen to, just to see what I have to go through. And this is I've distilled let's see, 3, 4, 5, 7, about 9 hours down into about a half hour. So it should be interesting.
Excellent. All right. Mike, you want to intro the what's for us? Senor McElroy? Why not? No?
Alrighty, so we have some stories that make you say, what?
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 So first off, Howling with the Wolves? What is this about? And who has a fan blowing on the microphone?
That would be the wind. There, I'm muted.
Yeah, Howling with the Wolves. I found this story. Well, this comes from Michael Horn's website. Michael Horn is the media representative for Billy Meyer.
Billy Meyer,
Meyer's
yeah.
a guy from Switzerland.
Yeah, I remember him.
He believes that he's been visited by aliens since 1942.
For some reason,
Yeah,
I thought Billy
uh,
Mays for a second.
Billy Mays here. No. Yeah, we talked about Billy Meyer in our UFO episode a while back.
Right, right.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I went there because Michael Horn, who he's kind of the U.S. representative for this guy, is he's starting a campaign against a number of the notable skeptics. I mean, he's calling out James Randi, Phil Plait, and even I heard about this through
How's that
Stuart
going for him?
Robbins. He's posted about it. Well, all these guys have debunked all these stories, and this is actually this is based on a story that was written in 1986. I'll read the story here. Howling with the Wolves. Watching the Hennick prophecies continue to unfold right in front of everyone's noses. We could call this, now you have a ringside seat to the fulfillment of prophecies. Unfortunately, part 3, as we now see revelations about Germany's complicity with the NSA and Poland's turning away from the U.S. Of course, prophetic information about this is from Billy Meyer, who was published in the Hennick Prophecies in 1987 and had been available online for many years prior to these recent corroborating developments. At first, many countries will howl at the wolves of the United States, partially due to fear of American aggressions and sanctions. But as this will be the case with many irresponsible ones in Switzerland and Germany, but also with other countries, in part, others will join in because they will be forced somehow to do or will be misled by irresponsible promoters of American propaganda. Now, the part I liked about this, now this is all part of this will be all in the show notes, but I like this, there's this part, let me get to it. Let's see, recent concerns about Russians' actions in the Crimea. They're preparing for war with Sweden, and the ongoing reporting of activities of Russian, Canadian, and other countries at the Arctic, and that will ultimately lead to, and were also published in the Hennick Prophecies. Apparently, Russia, let's see, I was hoping Erno could confirm or deny that apparently, let's see, for all these French-based military operations, the weapons of mass destruction stored in the arsenals of France will be used to cause evil devastation, destruction, annihilation. The aggressors from the east will force the French army to join their military forces and lead a war of conquest against the northern countries of Europe, invading and conquering Sweden, Norway. Subsequently, these northern countries will be annexed by Russia. Military forces will also attack Finland, whereby many will be killed and enormous destruction will be caused. This was part of a prediction in 1987. It's
And of course, all of this is
2014.
happening right now, right?
Well, that's why Erno's not with us today. Exactly.
That might be it. I was hoping Erno, but apparently Canada's involved too. So I'm beginning to wonder.
Dumbass, you seen any Russians lately?
Crickets?
No.
Cricket. Yeah, this has been the common thing with Meyer. He's been he's been doing these. He talks to the Bulgarians psychically, and he's been doing that for 39 years, I think I came up with.
Is this the same guy with the disco lady, the lady from On TV that claimed he was an alien?
Yeah.
The dancers?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dance. Now I remember. Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, I did some rough calculations that he's probably got between 5,000 and 7,000 of these prophecies, and none of them's come true.
He has been busy.
Yeah, apparently at least once a week, maybe, or twice a week, he talks to the Bulgarians. I mean, it's all he goes into a trance and talks to them, and they're supposed to be asteroids that were supposed to hit the Earth. There's supposed to be wars. Again, this thing here is all part of that, and I mean, I wanted to do some due diligence, have Erno report if the Russians are in Finland yet.
And we can get a report from on the
But
ground.
yeah, live report. But this is it's just this. It's the crazy. This was just so crazy, and this guy. I've actually got letters from Michael Horn actually to. He somehow my name was tagged to a post at exposing pseudo astronomy, and I think all Horn does is he finds a name, he sends emails to him, or finds the person.
The same thing
sends
happened
an
to
email
me.
to him.
The exact
Okay.
same thing happened to me. The guy contacted me, and he just wouldn't let it go. He was talking about the Horn case, and I'm like, listen, I was only interested in talking about ancient aliens. I have no opinion on this because I don't know much about it, and he just wouldn't let it go.
Right. Yeah. So this was just a funny what. Yeah, the people of Earth were warned, and did they listen?
No.
At the end of the post.
I'm with
Oh,
Brandy
we
on this.
listened,
Brandy has this opinion that she's always like, I want these wild and crazy things to be true. I'm like, fuck yeah, alien invasion, lizard people? Yes, come on. I wish that was the case. That would be something different for a change. I could hate something other than humanity for a change, huh?
If only we'd listened to this one pathological liar.
We didn't listen.
We didn't listen.
Yeah.
We should listen. More South Park references. We do that a lot.
Yeah, right. Well, it's a fantastic show. It's worth mentioning.
What was that about? Climate change or something?
Yeah. That was they parodied the day after tomorrow. It was like 2 days before the day after tomorrow.
Right.
We didn't listen.
We didn't listen. So, Brandy, you've got a story about schools in the UK for us. Huh?
I do, and one might think, kind of who cares? So I will preempt this by saying, excuse me, remember that England doesn't have, excuse me again, the separation of church and state.
No, they have an official state religion, yeah.
Right, and the Queen is actually the head of their Anglican church. So what I'm about to read you in that context, and keep in mind we're supposed to have that here, the separation of church and state. So that is why this one is a what. According to Huffington Post and all over the interwebs, other places, creationism has been banned in UK schools. And they don't call them public schools, but essentially like what we do here, we call public schools, free schools that everybody can go to, the government schools. Yeah. That is where this has been banned, absolutely. And I'll just read from the article I found on HuffPo. The United Kingdom government has banned the teaching of creationism as a specific theory in free schools and academies, which are the equivalent of public schools in the United States. The move was done in the interest of having a broad and balanced curriculum, according to the UPI. The remarkable decision was part of a document published on June 9th that laid out new clauses for church academies and stated that creationism is not widely accepted as a scientific theory. The clauses said that creationism is rejected by most mainstream churches and religious traditions, including the major providers of state-funded schools such as the Anglican and Catholic churches, as well as the scientific community. It does not accord with the scientific consensus or the very large body of established scientific evidence, nor does it accurately and consistently employ the scientific method, and as such should not be presented to pupils at the academy as a scientific theory. Excellent.
Fuck yeah.
This is a place that has, again, as its figurehead, the leader of the Anglican Church, and has, official state religion, the Church of England, the official.
And they have Darwin
Well,
for money.
Anglican.
Yeah.
The Anglican Church believes in evolution and all that.
But this is my point, that you can come to sensible things even under the idea of, okay, we should all believe this thing. Well, fine, but we can't manage that here. When we have separation of church and state, we can't manage to ban creationism. And I'll just
it might be more easy to do when you've got a state religion and you've got other things that aren't a part of that religion. Like creationism isn't a part of the Anglican religion, so they can go ahead and say, well, okay, we don't agree with this. We're gonna say no go.
Yeah.
I keep in my head. I keep playing the Eddie Izzard bit about Church of England from way back in the 90s.
It technically is illegal in the United States to teach creationism as a fact. Like we had,
you know what my school did? They taught
Edward
nothing.
B. Aguilar back in the 70s or 80s. There was a decision that said you cannot teach creationism. You can't teach it as creation science. You can't do intelligent design anymore. But they keep coming back with new sneaky ways to try to get it into the curriculum. Anyway.
And
like teaching the strengths and weaknesses of theories, or
I'd just like to.
the weaknesses that.
Hold on, I gotta mute. Hold on, guys.
evolution.
I got a note here that having grown up and gone to school in Oklahoma City public schools or public schools in the Oklahoma City area, yeah, creationism was never mentioned to us in school when I was in school. Like, yeah, in fact, I remember. I want to say it was 8th grade when evolution was first presented in science class to me. I think that may be incorrect, but yeah, they presented evolution in science class, and there may have been a passing mention to creationism, as some people think this, but yeah, you think of that as like the Bible Belt and some of that crazy shit you hear, especially if you listen to a lot of atheist podcasts, you'll hear some really crazy shit about Oklahoma, and I'm just for someone who grew up there, like I was not presented with that idea in public school. Now, when I would attend church, of course, that was a whole different deal, but at school, that was not the way things were. That does not say the whole state is that way. I'm fairly certain, especially in some smaller towns, there schools are entirely different.
Yeah, Oklahoma is a special kind of red state. It's the conservative state, I think. Really, they're more conservative than most of the conservative states in the country.
Yeah, well, like in the last election, there wasn't a single county that didn't vote Republican for the entire election. Anyway, I think Brandy has another what for us.
Does Brandy have another
Nope. Nope. Actually, that was it. I just wanted to talk about that. I'm pretty impressed with the UK, and again, just in general, they tend to do things that are pretty impressive as far as the public understanding of science, and they feel obligated to explain science to the public because the public funds science, and somehow we don't really seem to have that sense of obligation here. And so, anyway,
it's just another belief system, anyway, right?
Oh, it totally is. Yeah. Whatever you believe is true for you. So, what did Richard Dawkins say about that? Show me a relativist at 37,000 feet, and I will prove that there are no relativists at 37,000 feet, or something like that. It was so funny. It's like, yep.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have.
The new postmodernist approach to education brought to you by the conservative religious folks who want to introduce their doctrine as equal to evolution.
I'm like, yeah, let's teach the creation story. I'm a big fan of Vishnu and Shiva, and I think, yeah, absolutely, let's do it. Bring it.
I want to hear the Japanese creation story because there's piss involved.
That's so cool. One of the African ones involves vomiting. I think the god vomits up the earth. Like, yeah, or what is it? It's turtles all the way down.
God created what?
You know that it's turtles all the way down, right?
Everybody's all the way down.
In the beginning, God had a raging kegger and then pissed out the oceans. There you go.
Is that the Australian creationism? Sorry to our fans in Australia.
A wicked pisser. There you go.
Our last what? Nigerian man is locked up after saying he's an atheist.
Yeah, this is to go to the opposite end of the good news, bad news spectrum.
I just want to say I wish I was surprised by that.
Yeah, a Nigerian man has been incarcerated in a mental health institution by his family after saying he lost his belief in God. Mubarak Bala, 29, is said to have been forcibly medicated for insanity for nearly 2 weeks, despite a doctor's opinion that he has no psychological problems. Campaigners are calling for his release and say the case highlights the fact that atheists are a persecuted minority in many African countries. His Twitter account uses that he's a Muslim, and his profile says, "Chemical process engineer, I stand for truth and justice. Religion insults human conscience and reason, duped me that I have another lifetime. Agnostic atheist." He lives in a part of that's predominantly Muslim, and the state that he lives in adopted Sharia law back in 2000 and has a strict Islamic police force, which is great. He had renounced Islam. They took him to a doctor and asked if he was mentally ill, according to the International Humanist and Ethical Union, which has taken up his case and tried to fight to get him freed. The doctor gave him a clean bill of health, but the family turned to a second doctor who said his atheism was a side effect of a personality change. Which somehow if your personality changes, that means you have a mental disorder, I guess. The family allegedly told the doctor that he had also made delusional claims that he was a governor and, quote, other trivial lies. He was admitted to mental institute and has been on June 13th and has been held there since then against his will. He's pleaded to the outside world for help in emails and tweets from several phones that have been smuggled into the institution from him. In one, he said, the biggest evidence of my mental illness was large blasphemies and denial of the quote, history of Adam and apostasy, to which the doctor said was a personality change, that everyone needs a god, that even in Japan they have a god. Okay. And his brother said that all the atheists he's seen have had mental illness at some point in their lives.
Huh.
You know what?
Apparently, his father and his uncles beat him and subdued him physically and then his brother sedated him to be able to take him into the hospital. So he was physically harmed in the process of getting him put in there.
You know what I wonder? I'm not standing up for the family, but I wonder if because Nigeria has such hardcore Sharia and such, they don't really have rule of law the way we think of it, and so I wonder if this is some misguided attempt to protect him from just being killed, because a lot of places where they have Sharia law, he'll be killed after 3 days if you don't change your mind. So if they're pretty sure that he's an atheist, they might be protecting him that way.
That is what the family says.
I haven't done a lot of reading on this, but so you should tell me, because we were just talking earlier about whether things are verified or not. Is the only source for this the guy's tweets from smuggled cell phones?
Yeah, how do we know it's true?
No, I mean the International Humanist Ethical Union and the Nigerian Humanist Movement, they've both been involved with this, and they've verified that he has in fact been incarcerated there against his will. The secretary, Bamidele Adeniyi, secretary of the Nigerian Humanist Movement, met him online a while ago, and they said he seemed very lucid, intelligent, and witty, as well as bold and courageous. There are Islamic police in this state, and they're afraid for his life. Somebody might get to the hospital and attack him, and they're trying to get him out.
Right.
So they are actively involved directly with the hospital, trying to get the guy out of there. And this person, the secretary of the humanist movement, said, I'm scared because if it can happen to him, it can happen to me. The Lagos, Nigeria humanist group has no more than 10 active members in all. Atheists are a minority that are really frowned upon in Africa, in Nigeria especially. And a lot of Nigerians think that atheists are just horrible people. He says he's had lots of death threats and messages like, you don't deserve to be alive. But atheism is growing in countries like Kenya, Uganda, and Ghana thanks to programs like Cosmos, which is helping children understand evolution and questioning their parents about the story of Adam and Eve and things like that. But yeah, this guy has, because he's an atheist, because he's outspoken on Twitter, his family, and he told his family that he's no longer a Muslim. His family has forcibly committed him, like drugged him, beat him, and sent him to the mental institution. And they claim that it was to protect him from people who wanted to harm him, but they've done enough as it is.
Yeah, I suppose the alternative was, okay, we'll keep your secret and we'll do our best to make sure nothing bad happens to you. I suppose that's the best you could do.
Yeah, but if he is out there posting on Twitter, you know, with his face and his name or whatever, then there's a good chance that somebody might find him. Which what was the story? There was a woman, I don't remember where. In Sudan? She was Sudanese, yeah, in Sudan. A woman who was the daughter of a Muslim man, which technically in Sharia, I guess, makes her a Muslim, but she was raised by her Christian mother, and she was being accused of apostasy because she was raised as a Christian, and she had been sentenced to death by hanging and 100 lashes. And just recently, her sentence was overturned because of international outcry over it, and she's been ferried away to the embassy with her American citizen husband. So there's definitely risks for coming out as a non-Muslim in a country where there's official Islamic law.
Oh, absolutely, for sure. I was just trying to think, like, what would have been the best thing the family could have done? You know, what would we say they should have done instead? Is like, we support you, I guess, or yeah, I don't know what they could have done.
Their situation is just so vastly different than it is here.
And family matters. Like, for instance, if he comes out as an atheist, that may affect his sister's ability to get married. And as unfair and terrible as that is, you could see, like, you know, no man is an island, but especially in Islamic societies, no one is an island. And the repercussions that other people will pay for what he does, like, they are less safe because of him, which is terrible.
Yeah.
It puts the social pressure on them to do crazy shit like this. To please that all-loving God, by the way. By the way, P.S. Muhammad loves
Religion
you.
of peace.
Yeah, religion of peace, that's right.
Aren't they all, though?
Yes.
All right, well, I guess guess that's going to do it this week for the Irreverent Skeptics.
I just
hope
remembered the
everyone-
name of that podcast I was trying to remember earlier. It was called IPN, Independent Podcasters Network.
Okay.
Excellent.
We shall look it up and put it in the show notes.
So if we've said anything that has you appropriately outraged, please send us some feedback, because I'm still waiting to respond to some hateful feedback. Sad. And,
Please don't make us write our own hate mail.
Feedback at irreverentskeptics.com.
That's right. All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you next time.
Bye-bye.
And remember, the appropriate level of outrage is more than you think you need.
Okay, good. And scene.
All right, that's it for my recording.